Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Exclaimer webinar on ABM strategies and how to max your owned channels. I mean, this is a really great one, and we're really excited to welcome Justin Keller, the VP of Revenue Marketing at Drift, and also Dan Cafiero, Senior Program Manager at Seagate. You'll clearly know both these companies, top conversational AI in the business, and everyone has a Seagate hard drive in their house. Guys, welcome. Fantastic for joining us. Really happy to have you here.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you very much.
Nice. So in today's webinar, we're going to cover a few things. So we're going to look at what is ABM and really just get a good grounding there. And then the guys on the call are going to actually share their strategies and what they're actually doing. I think the most important thing is you all want to hear from them, what they're actually doing and what tangible actions you can take. And then most importantly, if you're not doing ABM today, it would be great to understand how you can actually attribute what you're doing and get buy-in as well. And from whom you're going to get buy-in from. So first of all, I just wanted to start off with this quick poll just to understand how mature people's ABM strategies are. So please, if you get a second, please just click on the screen now and tell us what level of response and what level of action you're actually doing with ABM today. So we will keep this on for another 30 seconds. Just give people a chance.
I should have brought some theme music for this part. Fill in the dead air while people are responding.
I mean, maybe there's a specific song we need for ABM. We probably should have put that in the pack. Maybe we could do a bonus poll at the end. Fantastic. So in terms of results, thanks for everyone that voted. It looks like we're pretty close on still researching in the planning phase. And we do have some people that are working with target accounts, but no one here that's voted is saying that they're up and running with ABM at the moment.
Great.
Guys, hopefully that can help frame the conversation. And I would love to actually kick that over to you. I think people are pretty early on here, so it'd be really great to hear from you. And I think we can start with what is ABM? And Justin, maybe you want to take that one to get started?
Sure, I'm happy to. ABM, account-based marketing. I have gone on record as saying I think ABM or account-based marketing was a bad name for a really good idea, right? Like, what does account-based marketing mean? It just means, understanding exactly who the best fit future customers are for your company, and then building a coordinated effort to go around, get awareness with them. If your target account's already aware of you, start bringing them to your website, driving engagement, driving responses through emails or calls, and working really hand in hand with sales. So it's definitely not just marketing. It's absolutely got to be a sales assisted motion as well. I'm not gonna go deeper, so I don't take up all of Dan's oxygen. I'll let him say something as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So for me, ABM is the perfect alignment between sales and marketing. It's about turning insights into actions. It's about getting the right message to the right person at the right time, all with the hopes of increasing velocity of accounts. So the movement of accounts down funnel towards conversion. So we're looking at increased velocity towards conversion, as well as pipeline generation and revenue.
Cool. And guys, maybe you could comment a little bit on the different levels of ABM as well. Because I know a lot of people have heard the terms one-to-many, one-to-few, one-to-one. I mean, what do they each mean to you?
Sure. So
Dan, go ahead. Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like you're doing one-to-many and one-to-few. So why don't you start us off, and then I'll plug in at one-to-one.
Yeah. So usually this is displayed kind of like as a pyramid, and it's, for me, I've always thought of it as like just the sales funnel, but upside down. When we think of one-to-many, one-to-few, one-to-one, it's all about the number of accounts in the program, right? So when you're thinking one-to-many, it could be hundreds of accounts, one-to-few, maybe a few dozen, and then one-to-one is literally just one-to-one, but it could be upwards of 10 to 20 accounts. So these are all different strategies that ABM provides to you depending on the size of the audience you're targeting. And I think we can go a little bit deeper now into some examples of how we do them. So When I think one-to-many, I'm thinking upper funnel awareness play. It could be anything from a BANT program, so content syndication through other channels like paid social. So again, the idea is providing a target account list, certain intent signals, technographics. I like to think of ABM as a smarter form of lead gen. So, in our one-to-many approach, doing a lot of different BANT programs, retargeting on LinkedIn, we're using demand base to provide awareness as well. So just keeping the leads warm with digital display. One to few normally would be a little bit smaller than one to many. It's a lot more targeted, usually vertical specific. One of our successful one to few programs I ran in the past was around Challenger reports. So it's a customized report that's created per account. And again, it's kind of like a customized ROI report that would be sent to specific target accounts and specific people. Do you want to go a little bit deeper into one-to-one, Justin?
I do, sure. So it's exactly what it sounds like. One to many, hundreds of thousands, one to few dozens, one to one. We're just going after one account. And I think a way of, Dan nailed it in terms of like the tiers and how many people earn them. I think a good way of framing this is how high resolution your data on who your best fit customers are, right? If you have a very, very strong understanding of exactly your ideal customer profile, the technographic, firmographic kind of buyer personas that are more likely to buy and buy at a higher level, have a higher average contract value, then it makes sense for you to invest more money in a one-to-one program where you're ideally customizing everything that you're putting in front of that account. You're personalizing the ad copy, the outreach that your sales, your SDR team is putting forth has a level of customization and research that you don't give to your one-to-manys or one-to-fews. And maybe that's another way of looking at this too, is on a per account spend level, you're spending less per account in a one-to-many motion, a little more in one to few, and then one to one is probably the most expensive in terms of bandwidth and budget. But because you've got a level of certainty that those accounts that you're going after specifically are going to be higher value, they're going to close faster, and you're going to retain them longer, are worth that additional investment up front.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. It's all about timing and budget, right? So can you do, depending on your timing and budget, your team, can you do one to many, one to few, one to one? Can you do all of them at the same time? Who are you targeting and how do you want to target them? For example, my first ABM program was a one-to-one. It was at an agency. So we were working on behalf of Citrix targeting Wells Fargo. And we started off with a lot of research. We wanted to, review their annual reports, understand their pain points, build specific messaging, tailor content. But what actually booked the meeting was just figuring out that their CIO really liked Formula One racing, inviting him to a Citrix sponsored event, and that deal garnered over $15 million in annual revenue. But again, one-to-one, if you swing and you miss, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of money, and it could be disastrous for your organization, right? So I think back to like Business 200 in college, right? Do you want to shoot a cannonball or do you want to shoot a bunch of arrows, right? And that's kind of the distinguishing moment between, if you want to try a few things, it probably makes sense to start with the one-to-many and then whittle your way down to one-to-few and one-to-one.
That's interesting. My first ABM campaign was one-to-one as well. And I wonder if this is true of, all ABM marketers, if there's a pendulum that swings. You start at one-to-one because it's super easy to, focus on figure out what it feels like to build a personalized campaign, right? And it's a lot easier to get the salesperson to ride alongside with you when it's just, a white whale account with them. But it doesn't scale very well, right? And so that's kind of the point. If you want ABM to work, you need to figure out how to scale it and get a little more programmatic. So you start to get a little more broad with your targeting. And that's what happened here at Drift is we got really, really good at this one-to-many, one-to-few thing. And we are just now swinging that pendulum back to do a lot more one-to-one. And so I think there's definitely this, right? There's a balancing act to be figured out. It's probably tough to dictate exactly what that balancing act looks like without starting to do it yourself.
Definitely. And thinking back to 2-3 years ago when I was an agency doing ABM, they didn't really have platforms that you could do a lot of these programs at scale. Looking where we are at now. Sorry, I can't speak this morning. There's tons of platforms in the space that allow you to scale one-to-one programs, one-to-few, one-to-many, right? With personalized messages or digital display. So there's a lot more technology now that allows, someone like me who's a team of one doing ABM in a large enterprise, the ability to really scale a program.
Yeah, that has come a long way. And I think, we're going to, talk about this later, but the amount of data and this whole thing, one-to-one, I guess, is the least data enabled unless you really look at your own, customer data. But getting this scaled out absolutely requires data. And I think that's a fundamental, given for a scaled out ABM program.
Yeah, and guys, I think that's a great jumping off point. We did have some people in the audience who are actually running some programs. So I think we've got a poll question coming up next. That'd be actually fantastic to understand for people what level they're running their campaigns at, so we can make a bit of a comparison. So for anyone here who has started their ABM program, if you haven't, please don't cheat. But if you have, let us know if you're running one-to-many, one-to-few, or one-to-one. We're going to keep this poll up for 60 seconds. There is no elevator music. That is noted for next time. But if you can give us an indication, that's absolutely fantastic. Really, and guys, thank you very much for explaining the different levels. I think it's super important for people to understand which level you're doing and what it entails as well. So great comment on the budget, and also great comment on the different type of tactics as well that you're going to need and how aligned you can be with the sales team.
And people in the audience, hit us with your questions. You won't goof this up. This is all for you. So you tell us what you want to know, and I think Dan and myself and Ben can all give you a helping hand.
Okay, 10 seconds to go. Anyone that hasn't voted, what's stopping you? Maybe on another call. That's okay. But if you can vote, do it now. And I'm going to end that poll. And actually, it's quite an even split. It looks like one-to-many is in with about 20%. One-to-few and one-to-one. Actually, most people are in that realm. And actually, one-to-one has now edged it with a late vote. Now, guys, before we move on, you'd mentioned starting with one-to-one. Is that something you think you progressed and changed and moved away from over time, or have you pretty much stayed there?
So great question. I mean, I've been doing ABM for, I don't know, 6-7 years at this point. The first one I did was one-to-one. And it was one of these, campaigns where there's one account we really, really wanted to win. And it was started out as just kind of like almost a vengeance play. Really wanted to win this just one account that was super important to us. And so we kind of stumbled into what later we discovered was ABM. As we progressed, we got a more mature tech stack. We had a better understanding of our data and how to utilize it. We definitely scaled things out. But I think that, in terms of actual engagement and effectiveness, one-to-one works best, then one-to-few, then one-to-many. And I don't think that's a golden rule, but I think it's directionally accurate. I don't know, Dan, what do you think?
No, yeah, I would agree with you for sure. I think I started out with one-to-one in the beginning when I started about 5 years ago, and then we moved up to one-to-few because we wanted to see like a quick win with one-to-one, right? And that was just working really closely with the sales rep, helping him understand the messaging, the pain point, working with him to send the messaging through various channels. And then once we built out that trust, that understanding with each other, then we started to do more of a one-to-many play, because that was able to provide the leads with the quality of data that the team needed to really go out there and get those meetings booked.
Cool. That's fantastic. So guys, I'm just going to wrap this section with a quick definition from Gartner. I mean, we can always trust Gartner, right? Of what ABM is. So for anyone I think the guys have done a great job of explaining exactly what ABM is and what it is to their businesses in a tangible way. But anyone that's not sure, this is what you can share around. And now we're going to move into a little bit on how to engage and what kind of strategies we're using. But we did get a question actually from Jess. And Justin, maybe you would like to take this one. The question from Jess here is, what is the difference between ABM and customer marketing?
Excellent question. I don't think there is one. I think ABM can be used for net new business and customers alike. We have both running simultaneously. We got cohorts of our most important customers who we, based on data, think have the highest propensity to expand business with us. And so we run, awareness and personalized campaigns toward them as well. I think a lot of the strategy is the same. I will say, though, that if you are on the earlier side of your ABM journey, starting with a customer is not a bad idea, because you're short-circuiting a lot of the challenges. Like, that data thing is really tricky. But if you're starting with your customers, you already know that they are, a firmographic fit. They've already bought. You already know the contact within that account because they bought from you before. You already have an MSP in place, so the actual sales process should be easier. So if you're looking for a soft spot to start your ABM journey, customers might not be a bad place to begin.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that When you're thinking like one to many, one to few, it's probably more net new. But when we think about already customers we already have, we're looking at more of a one-to-one play because we're trying to cross-sell, upsell, right? Maybe it's different products, different features. But in the end, ABM to me is really just a strategy, it's a smarter lead gen. I think I mentioned that previously, right? It's just a smarter way to market. It's a better way to use your budget, and it's just using data to your full advantage.
That's fantastic. And Jess, I hope that's answered your question. I mean, great comprehensive answer. So look, guys, you both touched upon how you're using ABM so far, but maybe you'd like to expand a little bit more, maybe give some examples. I know when we've spoken before, you give me a couple of client and case examples. Maybe you'd like to share them here. I know, Dan, you had a great one. And I don't want to give it away, but maybe you want to share that with everyone.
I want to hear more about this one too.
Yeah, sure. So I use Demandbase and TechTarget exclusively to run my one-to-many, and it's really great because I'm a team of one. So I really rely on my vendor partners to be my feet on the ground. And last quarter, we were always using CSVs or the Salesforce extension to essentially create our TAM, our total addressable market, or our target account list. But what we noticed is just platforms across the board, the match rate's rather low. So when we switched to using the platforms themselves to create the audiences in which we wanted to target, we saw a 40% increase in the size of our TAM, which was really awesome. So we plugged in ICP parameters like revenue size, vertical, we applied intent signals, hardware technographics, a ton of different selectors or filters to enhance the program and create an audience in Demandbase, right? So once we did that, we exported that, plugged it into TechTarget, and then week over week, TechTarget exports contacts associated with those accounts back into Demandbase for what's known as known contact prioritization. So all of our digital display campaigns, they prioritize these contacts. We're showing intent across TechTarget's 160 publications, which is really great because we're making sure the ads hit the people we want. We also have feature or function prioritization and title prioritization. So looking at the people we want to focus on, ITDMs, they're the ones that are receiving our ads. We've also set up our campaigns against our journey stages. So depending on and the journey stages go against our engagement scores. So I built a scoring methodology that aggregates intent, web traffic, all the different signals that can be picked up across the board, and it scores these accounts. So the idea is the account has to reach a certain threshold or score to enter the campaigns. So we have upper funnel, mid funnel, lower funnel, and the content and messaging varies. So depending on your score, you enter a certain campaign with the idea that you're going to get the right message at the right time, push you down funnel faster. And then we provide sales week over week automated reporting that shows them accounts with top engagement, top engaged execs, accounts showing high intent, web traffic, whether it's new or on specific pages. And there's just a lot of rich reporting that we surface to sales with the idea that that's the handoff. You know, we've marketed to them, we've scored them, they've reached a certain level, now they're ready for you to engage. So really excited about this. It's been running for a few quarters now. We've seen great results to date.
And Justin, does that mirror the way you guys are doing it?
It does not actually. Well, a little bit. So at Drift, we are ourselves completely account-based. So if we're looking at just kind of broad demand generation programs, like we're hosting a webinar like the one we're on right now, we are happy to have all those registrations and leads, but they don't get through our filter unless they fit our ICP. So we've got a very, very tightly defined ideal customer profile. We rank every single account in the universe, so we know if they're an A, B, C, D, or E. And if they are not in, don't fit what we consider to be our ICP, we will nurture them. We'll say, thank you for joining us, but we don't do anything in the way of routing them to the sales team. We don't put a lot of, marketing effort, if any, behind them. So even in our lead gen strategy, we're still thinking account-based for people that are coming in organically. And I mentioned this a little bit, but Drift has gotten really good. So if you think about that, like our one-to-many program is basically our entire ICP universe. So whether we're going out after them or they're coming inbound, that's what we think of it. We have a pretty good, or had, I should say, because we rebooted this one-to-few program that was called the Drift 250. That was 250 of the accounts that we really liked, that we thought would be great customers for us. But we were doing nothing in the way of really driving specific demand and engagement from that Drift 250. It was basically just scaled out, like a little more targeted demand gen. And so this is something we've done in the last 6 months, is invented, we started with just 50 accounts and doing a one-to-one program with the customers that were going to be the biggest and best fits for us. And We'll get into this a little bit later, how we actually do it, but personalize their entire journey. Everything had their, either their company's name or their contact was greeted by first name. And out of that, we saw incredible engagement, so much so that we have kind of rebooted our ABM program with one-to-one at the heart of it. Drift ourselves is going, very much getting more of an enterprise focus. And so it makes a lot more sense to go after those kinds of accounts. And we're seeing upwards of 50% conversion rate from target account to opportunity created, just because we are speaking so specifically to these target users. So for us, it's a little more of us buffering our enterprise pipeline by creating really specific bespoke experiences for our most important accounts. Likewise, as I think her name was Jessica was asking, we're doing the same thing with some of our biggest customers as well, making sure that they're completely aware of everything that Drift can do for them, that we're continuing to build that relationship. And I think that's something that, I think we've both skirted around, but the relationship component is a super important thing about ABM that you don't get with traditional demand gen. Is you ultimately, you're trying to build that relationship with your target prospect. And so that's one of the things that's at the heart of the Drift ABM program.
One thing I do want to mention, I think is important, is it depends on, right, if you're doing inbound or outbound. So when I was brought on 2 years ago to help launch Live Cloud, so Seagate traditionally is a hard drive manufacturer, over 60 hard drives. This is our first SaaS offering, right? So we had a team that we needed to teach how to do prospecting, how to do outbound, and that's how we set up our team, right? We taught them to understand the signals, the funnel intent versus lower funnel, if they're showing early stage research for unbranded keywords that are important, or if they're showing lower stage vendor evaluation for competitors. We want to understand those signals, get them to sales faster, as well as the web traffic. For inbound, I think it's a little bit different. For inbound, anyone who's doing a BANT or a content syndication program can really easily make it ABM centric by providing a target account list, providing intent keywords, providing hardware technographics, really focusing those qualifying questions. And then as those contacts come in, you're getting a lot more range in terms of people you're going after versus just, a list of leads from, say, like an event or something like that. So it really is important on the structure of the program based on, if you're doing an approach or an outbound, or if you're kind of splitting it 50-50.
Yep, that's a good call out.
Yeah, I think that's a really great call out. And guys, we've just got another question in as well. Actually, we've got another two, but one we want to focus on this section, and one we'll come to later on tech stack. From Max, Max would like to know if we're using video media or videos in general, and what's most effective, and is it engaging in this type of ABM program?
I can start. We do use video. It's actually a specific step in the experience that we're creating for our target accounts. So Drift offers a video platform, right? You can record and send and track video engagement. And I mentioned that, we're really over-indexing on these one-to-one programs. And I also mentioned that, relationships, building those relationships is very important to us. And video is kind of where all those things meet. So we've got a tech stack slide later, so I won't spoil too much of it. But ultimately, person from a target account comes to a landing page. We identify them as being this person or from this account. The Drift chat experience unfurls automatically when it recognizes them. And instantly, or not instantly, but a video preview starts featuring the salesperson responsible for that account. So, if I come, if I'm from a target, if I'm from Seagate, I come to drift.com, Sarah, one of our AEs might say, hey, Seagate, I'm Sarah. I want you to know that, I'm responsible for your account. I'm very excited to have you here, blah, blah, blah. And so we put a face to the name and put our humans out front and center as part of our target account strategy. And the engagement absolutely works. I mentioned like a 50% conversion rate from target account to opportunity. What I didn't mention was about 20% of the total accounts come inbound. So it's not like we got engagement from this account on this page, sales team, go do your thing. No, because we're doing such a good job of tailoring everything to them, putting a super personalized video message in front of them, they're like, hey, yeah, I'd love to talk. Where do I start? And they book a demo or a meeting right then.
Nice. Yeah. So for me, I would say I personally love video. I used to work at an agency that did video specifically. It was actually the first award I won for my work for Lego Coding for Kids. It was really cool just being on site all day and watching the production process and and seeing everything happen in real time, and then watching the editing and the cutting, which is the most expensive part of production, and then getting it into the channels and seeing how well it works. Demandbase released a feature, I believe last quarter, that we just tested, which is video ads. And it was pretty great in terms of results. We saw 44% of our target accounts completed the video through the whole thing, which was really great. And I'm excited to test more in future quarters.
I think that's great. And that's like two wildly different ways of using video, but I think it speaks to the same point, right? It's about creating a very rich experience. The better, the more engaging and vivid that experience can be, I think the better it performs.
Definitely. I think no one's reading a 20-page ebook, but they'll watch most of a video. With our TikTok brain, we've got like 8 to 10 seconds of people's attention now.
Amazing. Thanks both. And thank you, Max, for the question. So one of the things you both touched upon when you started talking about ABM, and I want to take this back a level, is actually about how you're using target account lists. And it sounds like that's involved. I know a lot of people are hearing about intent data and what's possible there. And I thought maybe this is a really good opportunity to share a little bit about what you're doing with those target account lists and what you're shifting to at the moment.
I can jump on this. I would say since I started in ABM, the TAL has been kind of a pain point because they're always changing, right? Everyone's taking a look, everyone's editing them. You try to use one and then someone says, oh, I have an update, or they're just not relevant when you're using a CSV because things change so quickly, right? And then we switched to using Salesforce connector, which is a lot better because, as an account converts, it then removes itself from the campaign. So you're saving time and budget by not targeting accounts that are already, towards conversion or with sales. But I would say switching to using the platforms themselves has been night and day for me personally, because it's a lot more automation, just saves a lot of time versus, getting 6 versions of a list and trying to figure out which one is accurate or relevant, uploading it into the platform, realizing that half of the accounts don't match. So I'd say just shifting away from TALs has been one of the more helpful things for me, especially just being a team of one.
Yeah. I think we also, I kind of talked a little bit about this evolution from one to many, one to few. One-to-one, for those that are doing one-to-one and are new in your journey, those require a lot of lead time. You need to let them be in flight for an amount of time before you can determine if they work or not, and they have to be on a static target account list. So, that is what it is, right? But your one to few and definitely your one to many accounts should be dynamic. They should be sensing the intent that's coming in, and start to prioritize exactly who's getting what message, how are they getting it, how much money are you spending on a per account basis. And so I think, for a one-to-one, it's got to be static. I dream of a day where we can be super speedy and create very bespoke one-to-one experiences like that, but that's not the reality we live in. But for our broader ABM strategies, we've got accounts flowing in and out at any given time based on the intent we're seeing out in the market, but also what we're seeing in our own database. So I mentioned that we only let target accounts into our marketing view of our database. If we start to see an increase in target accounts coming inbound, that also will lift the score up, and all of a sudden they'll become a much more attractive account for our sales team or our SDR team to go after.
Yeah, I think that's a really good summary. And no, Dan, you've got a little bit on a shift to intent data, and maybe you can walk us through this and talk about the different data types, just so people understand. Because
sure. So
I think we've got a lot of people who are very early in this conversation.
I think this is a slide I initially created for my our reps, right? So we have a team of SDRs that report to marketing. So this is the first slide I created for them. And then I used it when I went to Berkeley to teach some graduate students. But I think it's important that we differentiate the types of data that we're looking at. As I mentioned, we have a scoring methodology that aggregates all 3 types of these data. But going from the beginning, it's intent data, or what's called upper funnel, or I think 6 Sense coined this like dark funnel, right? So what's happening before they're on your site. And that's really interesting because one thing we notice is accounts that convert 6 to 8 months in the past, they show spikes in intent, in web traffic, and different signals. So you want to understand what these surging intent keywords are. So I work really closely with our SEM and SEO leads to understand what keywords are performing well quarter over quarter. We then plug them into our platforms like Demandbase and TechTarget, and then they surface accounts that are showing these signals across the site. So It's really important to get that intent data because it helps us understand, again, if they're an upper funnel, unbranded keywords, they're in early stage research, they may not be ready to buy. Let's maybe put them in a nurture versus if they're showing intent for some of our competitors, let's push them to sales quicker because they're a lot further down. I also think it's important to look at engagement data, right? Because that's a big part of the story. My reps will see, whether they're searching for intent or not, but if they're on a specific web page, then they'll understand what product sequence to put them in for outreach, right? So outreach is our automated inbox for the team. So if they see that they're on a JBOD page or an Exos page, so these are product specific pages, then they'll put them in product specific nurtures. And that just speeds up the process because they're getting the right message at the right time, converting the meeting quicker. And then finally, conversion data. So that's form fills. These are anything that would automatically MQL you, going back to BANT. This is good because it just provides the team a lot more information when someone's doing a form fill. That way they just understand everything's provided for them in Salesforce. And again, intent and engagement are aggregated in the score and provided in the platforms that we have for ABM. But that conversion level data that's coming from Eloqua, it's getting stored in Salesforce as well. So it's just good to see holistically an overview of what the account's been doing, who at the account has been doing what. And it helps you connect the dots, right? And understand the story. And that just, again, tailoring your outreach, speeding up the process. The whole goal of ABM is to book meetings faster, right? Move those accounts down funnel towards conversion quicker.
Nice, that's a fantastic rundown. And for anyone that hasn't understood that, I mean, I think that's a really, really, really great succinct way of explaining it. And we will share it on the deck afterwards. And Dan, I also know that you've put in a slide about science of intent as well, and like what are intent sources. And I think both of you are going to have a great point in this. But Dan, if you want to kick it off and then pass over to Justin, that'd be amazing.
Sure. So this is out of the demand-based playbook. It's really great. They have a thing called an intent score. So depending on the amount of people at an account looking for those keywords, they score it. So for me, I get to see if you have high, medium, or low intent. If there's 100 people at your company, 90 people are searching for an intent keyword, I want to know about it because that to me signals that an internal project has kicked off. And that's the people, I want to go after. The platform itself also is super helpful in terms of creating new keywords. So I'll plug in our keywords. They'll then essentially create a lookalike list of keywords based on what they think we should include. You can also include URLs of competitive sites, and then they'll scrape that data for you. So it's really helpful to get intent data, whether you're working with a demand-based, a Sixth Sense, a Bombora. It's really rich information and really helps understand it and drive things forward for you as you're looking again holistically at the bigger picture, right? For someone, we have 60 plus products. I want to understand really what they're searching for so I can understand their pain points and tailor my message accurately.
Dan nailed it. I don't have a lot to add on there other than I think like Dan, we too kind of sum up a lot of different data sources and turn it into a score. And for our one-to-one campaigns in particular, we don't do anything that's at the awareness. So if there's no intent whatsoever, we don't build them into our one-to-one. So we have to sense a little bit of a sign of life before we put the effort into building a program for them is the only nuance I'd add. But it was really thorough answer, Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, intent's really important for me. And one of the cool features that we unlocked this previous quarter as well was the ability to push intent signals from TechTarget into Demandbase. So we're able to push 2,000 to 3,000 signals a month from our key accounts from one platform into another, which for me is great because my scoring methodology, it picks up all of that and then it makes the scoring a lot more accurate, right? So I think of this sort of kind of like a dial on an old radio, right? You want to get the perfect level, right? And then you get all the signal and then your scoring is a lot more accurate. So being able to pull intent from Demandbase and TechTarget together really gives us a much stronger understanding of what the account's doing across the entirety of the web.
Cool. Oh, that's amazing. And Justin, if you did want to mention a little bit on how that works at Drift, that would be fantastic.
We do. So we've got integrations with Drift has integrations. If you don't know what Drift is real quick, by the way, we are, build a chat experience on your website that allows you to kind of replace forums, have better conversations with people visiting your website, more personalized conversations. And the way we power that, I do not want to make this an advertisement for Drift, is through integrations with platforms like 6sense and like Demandbase, where we can understand what their level of intent is, and they can tell Drift. And so if they're super hot, Drift can greet them with one message. If they're not at all, it can greet them with another. And then again, understanding what account they are at and visiting from allows you to add a deeper level of personalization into the chat so that you can really drive that engagement up. And it is a great way of, if you think about, all the data we're talking about, all the effort we're putting to engage with the people that are on target accounts, it becomes a really good way of engaging them once you've finally gotten them onto your property.
Yeah, and I'd be really selfish asking you that question because that's something we're actually kicking off at the moment. So I just wanted to hear it from the horse.
If I can do anything to help you with that, you just let me know.
No, it's all good. We're all on track. So, guys, I think it's a great point to actually reflect and talk about what do you think is the most successful. I know we have some more questions coming up, but what is the most important factor to make ABM successful? This is a challenging one.
Buy-in from senior leaders.
Yeah, buy-in. Yeah, we can move on to the next one.
Okay. Let's bring you to the next section, which is getting buy-in. I mean, it's as if we planned it. So I think here's the key thing, right? So who specifically do you actually need to get buy-in from? Is it just senior leadership, and how do you go about it? And then is there anyone else you need to consider?
Yeah, so for me, it's senior leadership across the board in marketing, especially in sales, and then working closely and collaborating with MarTech, marketing operations, analytics, the brand team, right? I think ABM, or I always say like ABM is a full contact sport. Like we all cross the finish line together. You need everyone on board to make this happen, especially again, just being the one person doing it. So you have to be friends with everyone. You have to ask, for a lot of help and engagement from the team. But I just, I try to communicate as much and as often as possible, whether it's bi-weekly emails or monthly updates on the successes that we've seen, or just, jumping on a quick call to explain why you need this and how it needs to be done. Just being transparent and authentic with everyone you work with, I think is super important to, again, cross that finish line together.
Yeah. I think likewise, I think that's important. If you're a small enough company, I think if you can get the CEO to say top down, look, this is going to be a more efficient acquisition strategy for us, that really helps. If you're at a Seagate, I don't think the CEO is going to say, hey, ABM's our top priority now, guys. So your mileage may vary. I do think that it is important to get as many senior people bought in as possible. And I've seen this done dozens of ways in my life, more than we have time for right now. A personal anecdote, though, two things I've seen work best. One, if you're starting a pilot, pick one salesperson, pick your favorite salesperson, say, hey, what are the 2 or 3 accounts that you would love to start a conversation with? And let's you and me team up and just make that happen. And that way, if you can demonstrate success off of one rep, you can start to say, okay, I want some of that too from your sales pit. And you can start to get a little bit of natural, organic interest in ABM. The other way is, like I said, it's a more efficient acquisition strategy. We had to move really quick. Personal story, was looking at my annual budget, doing my funnel math, and realized, okay, with my current budget, there's no way I'm going to hit my pipeline goals. It's math is going to prohibit it. I need to get a lot more specific with how I'm targeting, which means making sacrifices for my broad lead gen programs. So I went to the sales team and said, hey, this has got to work. You need to pull in, because in order for us to hit our number, we need to go fishing with a spear and not with a net. That means you're going to have fewer leads to work on. Hopefully, that also means that you're going to have richer engagement signals from target accounts. And if we all get really focused on them together, it'll work. And so kind of the empty threat, it wasn't totally true, but the empty threat of saying, okay, leads are going to dry up a little bit, but we're going to invest a lot more in what we perceive to be the most important accounts got that movement to happen. But ultimately, the sales team needs to be bought in, first of all. Like your AE partners need to be bought in. And then that is definitely bolstered by having senior leadership, bring some downward pressure in the conversation as well.
Nice. And guys, thanks for actually giving us some tangible actions there. I think that's really exciting. I know I'm certainly making notes. I'm sure everyone else is. So we actually had a question from Max about the tech stack and media platforms you're utilizing, but maybe we can explore a little bit about what the two of you are using.
Absolutely. I love a tech stack slide.
Do you want to toggle over to the next slide?
I think that'd be smart. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is another one of mine. So this is our tech stack to an extent, right? So examples of things we're looking at, what we currently have. So starting from the top, CRM, we are one of the original Salesforce customers. I think we have the 6th largest instance in the world, which comes with its own set of positives and negatives.
That's got to be a nightmare. Oh my God, I can't imagine.
But we have a really amazing team who is working through it right now. So I'm hopeful that it'll all be good. But marketing automation is super important. Eloqua, it is our pipes, right? It is how we move leads from one platform to another. It's how we push contacts in and out of Salesforce into LinkedIn for retargeting. When I came on about 2 years ago, one of my first jobs was evaluating and helping decide which platforms we would buy in terms of data enrichment, prospecting, and ABM. So, Lead Space, Zoom Info, HG Insights. For us, technographics are huge. So HG is definitely a component. Seamless AI, also great in terms of mobile dials. I think they have the largest match rate for mobile, around 60%. For prospecting, everyone has LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It works really well with demand-based. They have a Chrome extension widget the team loves. It drops our contacts that are top engaged right into our outreach sequences. And the Tech Target Priority Engine is wonderful in terms of providing contacts. They just did an analysis for us. And my program over the past 2 years through them has brought in around 22 million in revenue, which is pretty awesome, I would say. And then finally, what we're here to talk about today, right? The ABM platform. So demand-based, 6 Sense, Terminus, Rollworks, they're all leaders in the Forrester wave. We've evaluated them all, and I continue to evaluate them and look at what is the best in class. We love demand-based. I think 6 Sense is also up there with them, as well as Terminus and Rollworks. Rollworks has its own DSP. So their advertising is obviously world-class. But when I think about ABM, I think about GTM go-to-market. Demand-based really has all the bells and whistles we need, and it's kind of like your one-stop shop. Whereas I personally feel 6 Sense is more of just a scoring model that maybe bought an advertising platform and is trying to merge the two. There's also a few others that are lower in the space, like I think it's Triblio and a few others, but they're not anywhere near the ones mentioned here, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to hand over to Justin, who's actually got the other side of that tech stack.
This is just so we have a pretty healthy marketing tech stack overall. This is just what we use for our ABM program. So Dan, I think you're right. Like 6 Sense has got a fantastic data model that we use to understand what accounts we should be going after on a one-to-one basis. So who is a healthy score for us, who is in market. Also uses our dynamic list updates. So based on what intent we're sensing, it helps to automate who is in our one-to-one or one-to-few and one-to-many platforms. And you are right. I think there's probably stronger display platforms out there. We do use for a one-to-one display ad only platform. We use 6 Sense. Social is where we spend a lot more of our ad money, and especially on LinkedIn. We haven't seen fantastic results out of Facebook, but we get phenomenal results out of one-to-one targeting on LinkedIn. And so all of those ads lead to a landing page, which I'll get to in a minute because I almost skipped over outreach. We are actually in the midst of transitioning to SalesLoft, but an email automation tool is super helpful for your outreach, right? So marketing's over here, driving awareness and engagement with ads. Your sales team, your SDR team should be matching that at the same time and reaching out with a very thoughtful, personalized email. All of those efforts go to lead someone back to a drift.com page. So at any given time, we've got between 100 and 400 accounts that we're trying to personalize. That is all powered on one page where everything is personalized based on who's coming to that website. So we use a tool called Intellimize, and this is a little bit of a hack, but it's able to customize the account name and different content blocks within that landing page, so it is relevant to the visitor. And then I already told the story about how we're using video within Drift. But when a target account comes to that landing page, Drift pops up, greets them by name. It knows what industry they're in or what they're interested in, or it's exactly who this person is. And the greetings or conversations that are prompted within Drift change dynamically based on who's visiting. And I think that really personalized conversation, human first approach to getting a person to convert has worked extremely well for us and a lot of our customers as well.
Intellimize sounds like a follows. Is that accurate?
It does not. No, it's more like a Optimizely. So it's kind of like a multivariate testing, but they have a lot of personalization capabilities on it as well.
Nice.
Cool. So guys, with all this tech, I mean, I think the next question is pretty important for us. Like, how do you actually prove the value? I mean, this is not inexpensive, and also it's a big operation you're both running. Any advice for people on how to keep things on track, whether that to be on the relationship side or on the data side?
I my metric, whether it's for ABM or demand gen or whatever, is pipeline. Am I generating enough pipeline for my team? And then I start to click in on exactly what are our pipeline sources for our ABM specific reporting. Pipeline is the end metric. Revenues ultimately, but the leading indicator before that is pipeline. And from there, we kind of start at the opposite end of the funnel. Of all the ads or all the accounts we're targeting with ads, how many of them are engaging? Of the ones that are engaging, how many different people, how many contacts of that account are we effectively getting back to a landing page? Of the people that are hitting that landing page, how many are engaging? And drift engagement means you're actually interacting with the chat. So it's not just like I'm clicking around on the website or anything. I'm actually starting to have that conversation. And of those that are engaging, how many have scheduled a meeting? And this is not just tracked through drift, because sales dev teams also setting up meetings with these people as well. But for me, if I want to make it as brain dead simple as possible, how many target accounts am I going after at any given moment in a quarter? How many of those have we turned into a meeting? And that's just kind of a bellwether that's easy for my sales team to understand. It's easy for me to make a dashboard saying, okay, here's the Drift 150. We have got 25 of them with meetings. Here's who owns them. And it just kind of provides a lot of transparency, exactly like Dan was saying, back to the sales team, back to the marketing team on here's exactly what we're doing. Here's how it's performing. Here's what you, our friends in the sales team, can help you with.
Yeah, I think Justin summed it up really well. And in terms of metrics, right, the North Star goal is booking meetings and generating pipeline. As you kind of go up the ABM funnel, right, when we're thinking of our one-to-many programs with display, we're looking at other things as well. So like impressions, clicks, visits. But at the end of the day, like, did that account convert? And can you see from the beginning to end the journey, right? So through our platforms like DB, we can see the very first intent signal, the first web page traffic. I can see when they were put into an outreach sequence. I can see when the meeting was booked. So it's great for me because when I do my monthly, I can send a screenshot of the entire journey of the account from beginning to end and say, this was how many ads they were served. We can see that they were influenced to move down funnel faster. Another thing we look at is how many accounts in our TAL are in a certain journey stage. So that would be, how many accounts out of our TAL are in engaged or below. So showing a certain level of engagement, for example, 40 engagement minutes or more. So it's super helpful. And when you first showed me this slide, I was thinking back to the tech stack. And I think one last thing I want to say about tech stack is it's so important that you get it right, because it's so difficult to bring a tech stack in, get buy-in and get it up and running, let alone getting people to use it. Like, it's taken me 2 years since I've been here to get the platforms onboarded, to get people to start using them. And it's just so important, because if you get it wrong, I would say that your job could be at risk. And I've seen it before, right? Like, if you don't do it right, it's just a huge waste of money and time, and there's no results. So you have to get the right platform, onboard it, get people to use it, and then start showing results. And depending on the company you're at, they could want to see results in the first 6 months, which can't really be viable, especially if, at a large enterprise, it could take up to a year just to get approval, to get it purchased and onboarded.
Yeah, and just a comment on that, and I won't go into it too much. So here at Exclaimer, we're going through a huge wave of change, and most people will know Exclaimer if you're on this webinar. We're an email signature management platform. I will not try and plug it here, but we're in a real state of change. And actually, one of the comments is that the senior management team are really behind all of that change, so we're doing things quickly. But I think, and maybe you two can comment on this, but I think if you're in a situation where there's a status quo and you're just building quarter on quarter, it must be much harder to break in and actually convince people. It's kind of out of cycle. Hey, how can we actually do this? So if you were making a big move toward ABM, is that something you would be preparing to do sort of in your year, or would you be trying to really pitch that for next year's strategy? Like, how big is this for you?
That is, I think, a very tough question. I think it's just like there's so many different ways to answer that. I think it depends on like how big your company is, what your revenue targets are, what your budget looks like. I've seen most frequently the shift to ABM happen in one of two ways, though. And this is actually a conversation I've been having. I had last week with a customer. If you're older and you are very used to leads and a traditional campaign flow, it's very hard to change that, get out of that groove, because it's working, right? You may have good quarters, you may have bad quarters, but it's not like you're feeling the pain quite enough to make that switch. In this case, what's really driving them is not that, because they're a very healthy business, but what they're starting to really get concerned about is the competitive set they're going up against. And they're very concerned that the digital experience they're providing is not going to hold up for much longer. As we've talked about, the data that we have at our fingertips, the technologies that we have at our fingertips are changing very radically the digital experience that people's customers are expecting. And to cite another Gartner stat, I think it's 74% of the buyer's journey happens digitally. And so that digital experience is becoming more and more important as younger and younger buyers want to interact with humans less and less and less and try to do as much of their work digitally as possible. And so this is kind of like a very meta driver for them, is they are seeing the sea change and want to get ahead of it before it's too late and they've got to scramble to improve their digital experience. The complete opposite end is the one I described earlier about personally, where I had very little budget and I had very high revenue targets. And the only way it would work for me is if I was able to bring down my cost to acquire a customer. And for me, that was ABM. So that's kind of the tale of two towns. And I think there's many examples in between that are completely different scenarios to talk about.
Yeah, I think you summarized that really well. I would say I was at the DB Smart Summit last week, and John Miller's, our CMO, was presenting, and he's kind of like the godfather of Marketo. He created the lead funnel in theory and the scoring and all of that, but he, I think, explained it pretty well in terms of just the shift to account, because you're looking at buying groups, right? Not necessarily one lead or one person, but it's 6 to 8 people who are making a decision together to make this large purchase. And I learned that, being at Seagate, seeing how many people it takes internally to get buy-in from, right? So your lead might become your internal champion who then goes around and gets the buy-in from everyone, gets them all on those calls to move it forward, and becomes the main user. But you really need to influence, or you need to really penetrate that sphere of influence internally and get that buy-in, because you got to go through legal, you got to go through IT, you got to implement it, and you got to get people to use it. So it's definitely a buying group versus a lead world that we're living in.
Yeah. That's a really, really important call. Yeah, it's no longer by the lead. Even if you don't have ABM and you are in a lead-based world, it's not just one lead that's going to be making a buying decision. You have to consider 6 to 8 people in that buying situation now.
Unless it's a small company and the lead's the CEO, then maybe.
then maybe.
I remember when I was at a startup, actually, I was at Ironclad, and my VP said, we bought Drift because the CEO met with someone and he loved it so much that we just bought it like that. So if you can get the CEO at a company to like your product, it's pretty quick, I would say.
That we should have another conversation about just ABM for CEOs, how to make the CEO say, hey, marketing team, just go buy this.
You need it. Everyone's using it.
I think that's the god tier of ABM, really. After that one-to-one, it's just one to CEO, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. That's the one click down from that.
Yeah. So, guys, I think this is a great point to recap before we go into questions, because we've got some great questions in from people. But from what I understand here, listening to the two of you, a huge part of this is relationship with sales, as well as relationship with your senior management team. I think, as always, you've both touched upon this, making sure you have mutual goals and objectives. And then this is one thing for everyone, is just about selecting activities that are appropriate for your brand. We've had a couple of questions about activities like video. I think with both of you, it'd be fair to say, and Dan, you've mentioned a few times, you are one person, right? So what capacity do you have, and how can you pull things in? I imagine that's a huge consideration. And for both of you, reporting has been super essential. One thing we did touch upon in a previous conversation was actually about reaffirming those objectives with sales and marketing and staying on top of it. Maybe one of you wanted to expand upon that, because I think there can be this assumption sometimes when you bring something new in, you onboard it with people, you do all of the trainings, you maybe follow the process that the software vendor has given you for that, and you think, okay, we pushed the boat out into the water, let's go, it's going to be fine. Like, how much, dare I say, hand-holding, how much attention do you need to give these programs once you get them up and running?
I think it depends on the person, to be honest with you. Like, we have monthly office hours. We're constantly training. I'm doing video trainings, putting them on sales to share with the team. And then just something I learned from being at an ad agency. I was in healthcare back in the day, and we would go into these meetings once a week where we had to have everything, right? And I learned early on, like, to bring the receipts, right? So when you go into a meeting and someone says, I don't get it, it doesn't work for me, you have to be ready to say, oh, I looked on the platform and you haven't even logged in. So why don't we get on a call together and we work it out. So, it depends on the person. Someone wants that level of attention. They want you on a call with them, explaining it to them, and that's fine. Again, being one person, you can't do that with 30 reps or, people across the globe. So like I'm training EMEA, APJ, marketing team, sales reps. But again, I lean a lot on the vendor partner who's super helpful, and they show me how they use it. So I'll get on a call with a DB SDR and he'll give me little tips and tricks. For example, we use intent to filter out contacts on LinkedIn. So you go to an account, you go to people, you start plugging in the intent you're seeing in the platform. And then from 3,000, it goes down to 10. And you're like, all right, these are the people. This is my buying community. Let's go after them, right? And I learned that because that's the tips and tricks that they, gave us, and that's how they use the platform. I saw one of their VPs on a webinar. She was wonderful. Her name's Tracy. She was working through different reports that worked for her. And I said to my CSM, why don't we have these reports? And then the next day we had our very own version. So I think it's just about being curious, getting involved, and just wanting to learn more, and then sharing those insights early and often with the team to show them that you're there to support them.
That was a very good answer. I think I'm going to add one tiny thing to it, is that we've talked a lot about target account lists, and in our case with our one-to-one accounts, this is just dumb numbers, but let's say we will come up with a target account list for our one-to-one programs of 20 accounts per AE. We'll say, hey, here's 20 really good data sets. These are going to be phenomenal accounts for you. You get to keep 10 of them, right? So they've got some skin in the game. They're naturally bought in because they're like, these were the accounts I picked, and marketing is going to do nothing but help me crack open an opportunity with them. And by virtue of that, we've got an equitable distribution of accounts by AE, and we all want the same thing. Marketing and sales both wants revenue. How we get there tends to diverge a little bit. But when we've got these 10 accounts, it's easier for us to focus that conversation around, like, what's your SDR doing? Here's what marketing is doing. What are you doing? Jeff over here has gotten 5 meetings out of his 10 accounts. You've got none. What's the deal? How can we help you more? And it just makes it easier to shine a light on that. That's only works in a one-to-one. Scaling this out, which Dan's talking a lot about, like getting people to pay attention to what's happening with thousands of accounts at any given time, takes just constant hand-holding, constantly reminding them. You cannot over-communicate enough until your sales team gets a little bit pissed off at you, is where you should stop bugging them with updates about your ABM program.
Thank you both. I think that great answers, and thanks for the detail. We do have some great questions, but we're a bit short on time. So I think one of them was from Holly, and Holly really wanted to know about when people are coming onto the website. So I'm assuming we've identified them, we understand what they're doing, and we can see they're potentially a customer or a prospect. What's an appropriate action or response for this? And to frame this a little bit more, Holly has suggested, is it appropriate to send them an email, hit them up on socials or via LinkedIn and message them? What sort of tactics are you guys using, automated or otherwise?
We take an all of the above approach. It's surround sound ABM for us. So display ads, social ads, emails, calls will happen, LinkedIn, emails. What else do we do? Direct mail. We even do direct mail is part of our thing as well. So we do all of it, and we try to be as, lead with value and lead with relevance as much as possible, so that we don't annoy anyone. I'm sure it happens time to time, and I think that's the nature of marketing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think Justin summed it up pretty well. I would say we have always on, right? Digital display, one to many. We've got surround, one to few, always leading with the value prop, and always leading with, how you can save money. And then we've got that white glove service, right? Which could include direct mail. I was at B2B marketing or B2B MX a few months ago speaking, and I met with the CMO of Sendozo, Karen Steele, and she's really wonderful. And she said something that resonated to me, which was she loves her dogs, and people always send her things, but an SDR really did the research and found out she was a dog person, sent her a package addressed to her dogs, and she loved it so much she hired this SDR. So again, it's really about the research you do into the person. Do you understand who they are? Have you listened to their content? Are you tailoring your message, right? How do you break through that wall? I'm getting hit with emails all day long, in-mails on LinkedIn all day long. I'm trying to block it out, like my blinders on so I can work, but that one person who makes that reference to something I said or something I liked or something I clicked on, that's for me, they did the time, they did the research, I'll give them a response.
Just to make sure everyone heard what Dan said, that relevance piece is absolutely critical. If you are spamming one message out to everyone, that's not ABM, right? Super personalized, super relevant, super specific is the way forward with an ABM program.
Yeah, amazing. And I think we could have a whole webinar just on that topic alone. but I won't go there with too many questions at this point. But both of you, I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us today. Look, I think it's been super tangible. You've talked on a strategic level. You've talked to us on a tactical level as well. We've had some great questions from the audience. So I just want to say thanks again for joining us and really sharing your insights. It's been really, really interesting.
No,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
having us.
Appreciate it. Great to chat with both of you.
Amazing. And for anyone here on the call, please hit the guys up on LinkedIn, give them a follow, see what they're saying. Like, great posts, really, really good intelligence, and really applicable stuff that you can use in your day-to-day. So for everyone that's joined, thanks again, and we'll hope to see you on the next one. Take care.
See ya.